Baby, move our soul. Baby, move our soul. Every drum from a heartbeat shaking down to the ground. I can feel it in my bloodstream, swimming all around. Thunder rolls in the
I'm wondering if this is your song,
distance. Hear
Ryan,
the
the
wind is
playlist.
cold.
No, I put this on.
It feels like my song, so I'm
Move my
I love this song. I use it a lot.
Okay.
move our soul. Yeah. God, move our soul. Got to move by soul. Hey, got to move our soul. Hey, gotta move our
Okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to be talking about the medicalized body. Clara, do you want to say just a few words before we start, and then I'll lead us in a little grounding?
Yeah. Yeah. So we, did a roundtable like this on free birth a couple weeks ago only, I guess. And Blair and Ryan and I have just been really sitting. Well, there's a lot of different topics that we wanted to cover. And this one, emergent questions on Ozempic, vanity-based procedures, this medicalized body topic felt very up for all of us, I think. And yeah, so our intentions with these roundtables just generally is to pick topics that are, really resonant in at least our fields, and probably that, spills over into a lot of other women's fields. And to really bring viewpoints that are different, while being really rooted in service to life, really. And I think that's where we can all meet. And then there's a lot of other, like, well, how do we serve life in this discussion too? And so, yeah, I'm going to kind of moderate a little bit, try to guide the conversation, summarize today. And, last time Ryan did that for us, so we'll kind of take turns with that stuff. But yeah, I think we'll just let Blair ground us, and then we'll talk about the mission. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All three of us were kind of saying how the energy today has just felt really like whipped up and kind of a bit wild, and maybe it's related to the call, and maybe it's just what's
New
here.
moon.
New
Moon too.
moon. Yeah, so maybe you resonate with that. um you know Ryan and Clara and I, we've connected the last few months through a teacher of ours named Syl Reed. And Syl, at the beginning of every call, she reads this quote from Marion Woodman, and I'm gonna read it, and I'm gonna add to it, and then we're gonna just move for a moment to ground. So Marion says, if we could allow the pace of our meetings to slow down to the pace of our hearts, we might find genuine understanding. So letting that enter your field and touch what it needs to touch. There's also a piece for me that's like slowing down the meeting to the level of my pelvis also, like really centering down in the cervix and into my sit bones. So I'm going to invite everyone to just feel where the bottom part of your body is in space. Bring some attention there. And take a breath that feels like a breath into the chest. Welcome your heart into the space. And it's all welcome today. And then take a breath into your pelvis and let the inhale expand the bones of your pelvis. And let your body just take a few shapes with that. If your pelvis were leading, then how would the rest of the body move? Really acknowledging like the seat of your wisdom. Yeah. I'm wondering if we could just do like a little shake off too. So fluttering the lips and moving some of this for a moment. Okay. Yeah, I think that feels like a good place to start.
Should we just do a little intro for people who don't know who we are? Blair, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone. Thank you, Ryan. So I'm Blair Lindsay. I'm a depth-oriented somatic practitioner and a movement teacher. My I wouldn't claim any expertise in the topic that we are speaking to today from a medical perspective, but I do feel that I'm bringing my perspective as a woman, a woman who's aging, a woman who's bombarded with messaging, and kind of filtering that information through a depth oriented lens. Like, why is this resonating, and where is it coming from, and what does it touch in me, and those sorts of questions. So that's what I'm hoping to bring forward today. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm Claire Wisner. I am a bioenergetic nutritionist is my main training. So I do feel somewhat, especially when it comes to Ozempic, I feel, or like peptides, this is something that I'm pretty well versed in and understand, or at least believe I do. And yeah, I work with women, predominantly mothers or women who have, are struggling with some sort of hormonal imbalance or I talk about how I attune people to the frequency of nourishment. So it's not just, here's this diet and here's this life, here's these supplements. It's also like, where in your life are you not nourished? And where in your relationships are you not nourished? And we look at health from, the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical, and look at nourishment on all of those levels. So this, subject just feels really like I care about it a lot, I guess. I feel really interested in it. I feel really curious about it. And I do have strong opinions and viewpoints, but I also don't feel like I need to prove anything, or like I feel like people are wrong if they don't believe in my viewpoints. Like I just feel really open to what's going on in the collective around the subject of like the medicalized body, and also just really love bodies. Like I really love women's bodies, and I want women's bodies to feel good and healthy and vibrant and alive. So that's me.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ryan. Sorry, I had to do some dog management. So I'm a doctor of physical therapy who specializes now and for the last 15 years in pelvic health. So primarily my patients are women. And in treating women over the years, I definitely have done a lot of education and functional medicine work, and then deeper diving into the female psyche and understanding where the root of pain comes from, and the somatic experience of just the somatic drivers in our body that cause us to make choices, the choices that we make, or have the feelings that we feel. So I think what's interesting for me in this topic is to come from, like, I really feel like there is a balance that we can strike here, that there are things that are offered out in the world that feel maybe necessary for some folks. And I'm just curious, like, who is that and who isn't that? I feel like a real, like, curiosity for me, like where my thresholds lie with my comfort zone, especially as a person who's worked in public health and seen real people with lack of resources. So, and I think in the medicalization of these things, we're seeing it mostly, and the sort of like who it's available to, we're seeing it mostly available to people with privilege or people with resources. So I'm also interested in sort of like how that folds into this whole conversation. And I have a daughter, and I am 47, and I'm watching women who I've grown up with start to question their value because their physical bodies are changing. And I think it just feels like the opposite of the old paradigm, which is the older you get, the more wrinkles you have, the wiser you are, the more valued you are, the more medicine you have to offer. So I'm like also wondering, like, why is this inversion happening, and how can we shove that crone back up into her proper place of respect and resonance? So that's
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. So I'm going to read something that is just kind of our mission, like what we're rooting to do here. And then we'll kind of get into it. I'm envisioning that, like, I'll kind of speak to one of these outlined subjects that we have, and then let you guys like respond, and then we'll go from there. So, yeah, our roundtables are rooted in a desire to understand the personal and cultural impacts of modern living on the female experience. We know that the women of today are in constant state of keeping up, losing ground, and also looking back with longing for more wholesome and simpler ways of life. We are modern women with modern ideas. We want to be here now. And also we want to respect our earthwise bodies and the intelligence of our ancestors. We feel, as Carl Jung did, that learning to hold this tension of the opposite is fodder for the creation energy that births new ideas. We also know that we can't hold tension without a little discomfort. So we invite you to lean into it with us as we ride the waves and create something new together. So thank you for writing that, Ryan. It's beautiful. And yeah, we have a smaller group than last time. So I envision that we will get to have discussion. And so always feel free to write stuff in the chat as we're talking. And then we'll definitely probably have like the last hour or so of like letting people share if they want to, and then responding. So you're very much invited to bring yourself in and your viewpoints and what comes up. Yeah, so I'm starting with this idea of care of the soul, which is actually a Thomas Merton book that I really love and I come back to a lot. I've read it a few times. And he talks in that he also is in the, you know, the lineage of Carl Jung, I would say. He's like archetypal psychologist and you know, mystic in a lot of ways. And there's this idea of like care of the soul, like how do we care for our souls, not just our physical bodies, not just our you know, mental health, but like the care of the soul. And I think if you're here, like you resonate with that, right? Because that's the language that all three of us are using, and that's like kind of this place that we're coming from. It's like, how do we really care for the soul while caring for the physical body as well, you know? And that's where I think the idea of medical enhancements, you know, cutting into tissue in an elective manner, and there's all sorts of caveats and nuances, right, of like why you might do that. But, you know, I think there's, I guess I can't really see how anyone would think like this is a care of the soul to like get a facelift, or to think like I need to take a medication to make my body look different purely because I want to make it look different, you know, like that there's not some kind of medical reason for that per se. And there might be plenty. So, you know, this care of the soul is like medicine itself used to be so much more poetic. Like if you look back, like Socrates, for example, Hippocrates, like these doctors were also poets, were also philosophers. And there's something that I think is really missing. And this is similar to the free birth discussion. It's like the spirituality of birth was missing. And that's why Free Birth Society was so successful, is because there is something like starving in that realm. And I think medicine now in a more general sense is starving for this care of the soul. It's starving for this kind of what's actually, if the body is the subconscious, what is it telling us? What are these desires to change ourselves telling us? And yeah, I think that that's actually really needed if we're going to create better systems, you know? So yeah, there's like some examples of this is like weighing statistics over intuition, right? So like there are so many statistics about obesity, for example, and there's so little recognition of the individual in just general, like in the general medical establishment, if you will. Like, is this good for me? Is this actually what I need? There's all sorts of, and we can get into this later, but there's all sorts of reasons why someone might be obese. And we are told like, oh, it's because they're fat and lazy and eat too much. And what I've seen again and again, and I am technically an obese person as well, that's not the case. That is not the case. Most the obese people that I see are not overeating. They're not lazy. They're not like, I don't know, gluttons, you know? And so there's something else there. So then we, you know, speaking to Ozempic, like, or these GLP-1s or these peptides that are basically making you eat less, right? That's basically what they're doing. That's not necessarily addressing what's going on with obesity, for example. So that's just an example of this like kind of over masculinized medical system that I personally feel so strongly about. That's not the answer. That's not the answer for people. So yeah, I'm gonna let you guys respond.
Go ahead, Blair.
Yeah, I the thing that comes up for me as you're talking is this, yeah, this spiritual bankruptcy, like this spiritual I forget what we used in the free birth conversation, but like this, yeah, spiritual malaise basically, um, that we're kind of all experiencing, I think, on different levels. And as you were talking, what I thought of actually was a kind of map that Marion Woodman lays out. Because essentially, like we all have this need for like spirituality. We all have like Jung would call it a religious function. Like there is an innate, like similar to hunger, to the need to feed ourselves, to have shelter, we have this need to have meaning and purpose somehow and be part of like a greater whole. And Marianne said that in her practice, what she saw was that first a person would project the numinous quality, they would project the spiritual quality onto food. So that would kind of be like the first stage, right? That food becomes this like yeah, I think many different things for many different people, but for example, like the body of the mother, right, is a very you can see the correlation, and a desire for sweetness, a desire for nourishment, a desire for um, nourishment, right? So we can kind of look at that and say, okay, maybe collectively, these years of babies not being securely attached to their mothers, of babies not really having, of mothers not having information about what creates a strong bond between mother and child, of mothers being really disconnected from their own bodies and hating their own bodies and not being okay with the kind of matter, right? The mother. Um, so then that absence is then projected onto something like food, right? But then what's interesting is that Marion has like a second stage. So usually these people would then move into this state of projecting their yeah, numinosity, their inner religious function onto a man or partner. So then like the man becomes the thing that's like, this is going to be the thing that saves me, right? So it's kind of like projecting the inner mother through food, projecting the inner father through relationship. But the end game is like to basically see that this, yeah, this God that we're searching for, this emptiness that we're trying to fill, the hole that we're trying to fill, doesn't actually come from something outside of us. But Marion would say that like you have to have these initiations to be able to recognize that, which I think is very interesting, right? Like you have to meet the wound in this really difficult way in order to like find your inner, yeah, your inner relationship with God. And so I think on a greater level, like when I think about all these issues, and I think we can get really bogged down by like, fuck, like things are really fucked up here. And I sometimes wonder, is this how the God, like the God function, the goddess is trying to come through to us is like through these really fucked up ways that we're kind of trying to get this need met. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And I think one of the things we talked about is if it's so easily and readily available to fix your problem,
Yeah.
you don't sit in the wound long enough, you don't hold the tension long enough to create something out of it. Instead, you cover it or band-aid it or make it disappear. And I love, Blair, just that, like, bringing all of these projections up. I think she also, because this has a lot to do with addiction. You know, Marianne was an anorexic herself. She identified as one. And so she talks a lot about disordered eating and like what was up with that for her. So this is where all of this comes from, studying with Carl Jung and then experiencing anorexia in her own body and then figuring out like, what is that beast? And she also talks about trying to find soul or spirit is like alcohol or drugs, things that take you into liminal space where you can disappear yourself into some like magical land, which is the land that you really want to exist in. And so yeah, I just think like all of those pieces point us towards like what's driving people to overeat, what's driving them towards addictions earlier in their life, and how wonderful it would be to be able to catch that earlier, sooner than later, and to be able to just change the shapes of that earlier on in life rather than having to feel all the pain, all the pain, all the pain, all the pain, and then like have a quick fix on at the end of that because nobody's addressing your early on pain. Like nobody's catching, you know, the lack of attachments with your mother early on. Nobody's catching these addictive behaviors
Mhm.
early on. And so you sit in them for a really long time. And I think that's kind of where we are in terms of like Ozempic type of things, in terms of the spiritual elements. And obviously there's physical pieces with toxic food supply and lifestyle things that are changing our metabolic profiles, which also is what Clara was speaking to in terms of like people who are obese are not necessarily overeating. They have like hormonal dysfunctions, many years of living in our current society. So um, that's just something that we want to speak, like want to kind of broaden into as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great kind of place to merge into, because Clara, like one of the things that working with you, like that like busted this myth for me, like I was just always told like the less you eat, the better. The less you eat, the better. The skinnier you are, the better. And then I had this health crash, which you really, helped me so much through. And like, do you want to talk about like debunking that myth of like caloric intake to health, or your perspective on that?
Yeah. Yeah, totally. So, yeah, one of the, as I've been kind of like taking in, podcasts and articles and reading about, Ozempic and how it works and the mechanism behind it and and also just my own, interest in nutrition on a really general level, like what I have come to find, and I think this is backed through a lot of anecdotal evidence from myself and clients, and also on a scientific level as well. Again, it's really easy to find science on all sorts of things these days, but I think it's backed up pretty well through, specifically, there's a lot of information from this experiment that was done in the 1940s called the Minnesota starvation experiment, where they were actually studying, they actually starved a group of men and did so much, like studying of those men as they did this for 24, it was a 24-week period where they put them on a diet of about 1,500 calories, 15 to 1,600 calories a day, which is, something that a lot of people are eating actually now. Like, I don't think most people would be like, oh, that's starvation. You know, we hear people suggesting that maybe like Blair spoke to, that you should eat like 800 calories a day. I remember reading Cosmo when I was a teenager, and there was this 800 calorie a day diet, and I was like, great, I'm going to do it. And I did. And so yeah, it's this idea that eating less, I think, is actually really, eating less is better and healthier, and the least amount of calories you can eat, the better, is so deeply rooted in disembodiment. Like it's like this ascension idea, right? And that's what Marian talks about this with anorexics, and how they feel like high, like spiritually superior, because of the emptiness that they experience. So there's definitely like a subconscious spiritual ascension purity thing going on with this belief through the collective. And so what I know to be true is that eating enough is actually one of the major things that I recommend for people to heal. And when I say eating enough, there's a lot of caveats, because people are like, oh, I definitely eat enough. Oh, I like overeat on chips at night all the time, or I like eat a pint of ice cream sometimes. But when I say eat enough, I mean eating a balanced amount of macros consistently, day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out.
What
And
are
also,
macros? Is that meats, proteins?
yeah, macronutrients is protein, fat, and carbs.
Okay.
And I'm also looking at micronutrients, so like vitamins and minerals. So, you know, this, in this day and age, our food system, our food availability is so disproportionate in sugar, you know, highly processed kind of carbohydrate, you could say, and fat. Like highly, you know, if you, most snack foods like that you open out of a bag are going to be insanely imbalanced in macronutrient ratios towards fat. So it's really easy to really overeat fat and sugar and undereat protein, typically, for like the standard American diet. So most people that think they're eating enough or even overeating are far overeating carbohydrate, and, well, not necessarily, they're far overeating fat in most cases, and sometimes carbohydrate as well, and undereating protein. And this causes what's called like the metabolic swamp in scientific papers, to have high carbohydrate and high fat at the same time. It really, like, it slows our metabolism. And then when you have a slowed metabolism, you know, your basal metabolic rate, so like how many calories you burn just sitting here, like me just sitting here, right? Like just my heart beating, my brain working, just even like my arms moving, you know, there's a lot of difference per person. Like some people are just like always like, you know, fidgeting and stuff, and other people aren't. So there's a lot of difference in basal metabolic rate. But if that basal metabolic rate tanks, then, you know, you're going to gain weight. Because you're not burning as many. There is truth to calories in, calories out. It's not as simple as people want to make it. But yeah, so what I see is like a huge breakdown of metabolic health in our population, that, and massive nutrient deficiencies, along with this kind of super imbalanced macronutrients. So people, we all listen to this podcast, Rich Roll interviewing Johann Hari, who wrote the book about Ozempic called Magic Pill. And he was formerly very obese, quote unquote, tried everything, and then took Ozempic and has had great success. We assume, like, he lost the weight at least. But he was describing how he has just eaten shit his whole life. He's eaten nothing but fast food. That's what he grew up on. That's what his parents did. And he just would like eat fast food from morning to night, basically. And he would eat these like fried chicken. And it's like, yeah, that has so many calories, so much fat, so little healthy carbs. And so little nutrient density. And he would talk about how he would eat this whole bucket of chicken and still be starving. And all I'm thinking is, it's because your body isn't broken. It's because your body is like, where are the nutrients? Give me more food so that I can have the nutrients that I need to run the processes that my body needs. So there's so many people under this delusion that they just need to eat less, when actually they need to eat probably more consistently, more nutrient dense. And this, I'm not saying that that's easy. This is like really hard work. The people that I work with know it's like rigorous as fuck. And it's not easy. Like, you don't just start eating more and feel better. You feel worse most of the time first. So there's this really unfortunate truth in this for like that. I'm just like, yeah, like some people do not have the capacity to, because this means you're going to have to cook. It means you're going to have to prepare your food. It means you're going to probably have to track your food at some level, you know, just like how much protein. It can be like based on hands, and you know, you could say like, oh, a protein the size of my palm, carbs the size of my whole hand, and a little bit of fat. But you do have to start to engage with your food more and engage with your own nourishment more. And I think that there's a crux here that we can kind of come back to. It's like that meets with the peptides and the plastic surgery, beauty enhancements, is like, are we connected to our body and what it's telling us, right? And or are we like just assuming that it's broken?
Yeah.
Because that, what I've seen again, and it's not easy, but to be at home in your body, to internally feel and be curious and be open to the things that your body's asking for. I just really believe that will create a world that is more attuned to women and children, and ultimately, again, in service to life. In service to life.
Definitely. Definitely. And I mean, I think we're starting the process of disembodiment so early, like especially with women, you know, like if you have like the Mirena and you don't bleed anymore, you know, you take away the one thing that like wakes you up every month, you know, for sure. It's like the given, it just happens automatically. So if you're stopping your moon like from a young age with birth control, then you're already starting to mess with your endocrine system. I thought it was really interesting that you said that. It's like for the first time I felt in my body what it must feel like to be anorexic. It's like feeling high, because when you starve yourself, you just get like constant cortisol pumps. So
Yes.
like you're
Yes.
basically like taking the pituitary adrenal cascade. You're bifurcating the cascade, so it no longer goes to your sex organs. So like that's why you stop your period when you're starving yourself. And then it's just like constantly going to cortisol. So you're just pumping out that like high hormone, you know, your adrenals are just getting fried. And then if you decide to start eating again, unless you heal that adrenal axis, like that APA axis, hypothalamic pituitary axis, unless you heal that, your metabolism's going to be all messed up. So you start eating and then you probably gain like a lot of weight back when you really only wanted to be normal. You know, like you wanted to look normal, but you fucked your adrenals for so long that now you're in this thing, and it's like nobody's sitting there being like, babe, this is just the cycle. Like for every action, there is an equal reaction. Like you must be patient. You must allow for this, and we must like nurture you and nourish you and give you the therapeutic interventions you need to like hold when you're gaining a bunch of weight and when the pendulum swings the other direction. I think that's so much what we're missing is like the people are disembodied to begin with, then we're not catching them in those prime moments of like they're almost there, you know, they're almost making it, and then we can't deeply enough catch them. We can't do the soul work that they need.
threshold moments.
Yeah. And actually, I read the statistics, which was very interesting to me, that post bariatric surgery, your suicide rate is 4 times as great as it was prior to bariatric surgery. And I was like, boop, 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 what's that? Whoa, what's that about? Well, you didn't take away, like, you didn't heal the thing.
Yeah.
You didn't heal the thing. You just like shrunk the stomach. Like that's not gonna work. And actually, this guy in the Ritual podcast talked about how after he lost all the weight with Ozempic and he's still on it. And by the way, 70% of people gain the weight back when you go off of it, which is something we have to understand. Like this is a lifelong injectable medication. It's also very expensive. So I'm just saying, like, whoa. So he said he goes to Kentucky Fried Chicken during one like freak out emotional moment. I forget if there was like a death in the family. I don't know. I don't remember what happened to him, but he goes back and he's like, I can't eat this. And it was like the light bulb clicks for him, like, oh shit, like my old soothing mechanism, I don't have access to that anymore. What do I do now? And fortunately, he had supported himself with some therapeutic interventions, I think some therapy or whatever. But I mean, I think a lot of these people, we got to go deep, deep, like deep
Well,
therapeutic
yeah, on
intervention.
one, I've had a lot of people like I've written about this on Instagram. Like there's these people, these spiritual teachers that write about how like a fat person is untrustworthy. This is like a thing that multiple people have said. And I get it because they're saying that like that's the shadow, right? Like that like there's this like way that the way that they're posing it is like they're not taking care of their body and they're unaware of their it's I mean it's total bullshit. Like it's that's a totally like I don't know, oversimplified kind of disgusting thing to say. But it's true. There is like when our bodies give us symptoms and being having excess fat on your body is a symptom, they're telling us something. And if if you don't listen, and that's totally up to you, like this is free will, you know? If you don't listen, or we could even bring it to like, you know, sagging skin's gonna be normal, wrinkles are normal. But if there is truly someone who feels like they look different than they should at their age, which again is gonna, there's so many caveats here, but like there's something, you know, there might be something to do. It's true. Like there might be some action to take that your body's asking you to do, but we have to not take these things as like our body is wrong, but open to like, what is my body telling me here? Like,
Yeah.
what is actually the invitation if I sit in the tension? What is the invitation to go deeper here? And yeah, and this is like, if it's not for you, it's not for you. I'm definitely not saying everyone desires to go deep. I know that's not true, but I think a lot of us are again starving for that spiritual context of all of the health issues that we have going on. And this is where we get fed. This is, you know, we get fed by going deeper underneath.
And I
Why did I
think
gain this fat? Yeah.
there's like this dissatisfaction that comes from seeing all these superficial layers being addressed and
Yes.
kind of feeling that there's a lot more happening beneath the surface, you know? And one thing we all spoke about, well, first of all, I think it's important to talk about this, yeah, this idea of fat phobia and like how we immediately think that like a bigger person is an unhealthier person,
Right.
right? Like what I found super interesting in that podcast is this guy is like, I was really like on this road to just, you know, health problems, all these health issues, gotta take Ozempic. And then he's like, and I had peanut M&Ms for breakfast. You know? Like, okay, so you're clearly concerned about your body, but like that to me is a cognitive dissonance. Like, okay, that you think that just because you're thinner, that you're healthier.
That's that overweighting of statistics. It's like,
Yes.
oh, I'm skinny, so I'm healthier, even though I'm eating peanut M&Ms for breakfast.
Yeah.
And to be fair, like this is a dude interview. Like this guy, I don't think he actually represents us. I think the women on this call, the women who we're talking to are, it's way more of a like, we're strung out, we have no support, we are so busy, we are constantly told to catch up or keep up. And I don't know, it feels like way more like I don't have time to go deep because I'm going deep with my kids. I'm like trying to like hang on. I'm trying to like, we're all trying to like kind of heal, I think we're in this huge moment of changing shit, right? Like we're all changing the way we're birthing, we're all changing the way we're talking to our daughters about their periods, we're all changing sex, like everything, right? So we're like holding so much, and I think women in the meantime are letting themselves, like be siphoned of their nutrients, nourishment, nutrition because of this, and so they're like, I just need to hang on. So I'm gonna do the Ozempic thing. I think what Blair and Clara and I want to say is, we're here for you. Like we've been through it, and there are resources for not for holding the tension, but it does take like a real investment of time and energy, and it's a choice for sure, and resourcing.
And we're
Yeah.
also trying to like change a worldview,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
medical system is so rooted in this like Cartesian, like I think, therefore I am. It's so disconnected from the body. We don't have um any standardized procedures to do what Clara's saying or what we're saying here and like go the layer deeper. If you want to do that, like you have to pay out of pocket for that. You have to pay for your therapist. You have to pay for these things. Like it's a totally different worldview that we're working with
Well,
also.
and there's no money in it. And it's so that's a big, huge theme that we brought up over these past couple weeks talking about this, is like the medical industrial complex or whatever. Novo Nordisk made 16 billion off their first year of Ozempic. So we're also talking about like we're feeding the beast with money. And this, what we do doesn't have, nobody's making money off of us doing this. So it's like, it's undoing, it's like pulling all of the threads out because they are like really all mixed up. Um, yeah. So there's a huge money piece. And I think it's like part of it, you got to be kind of punk rock to do this because you got to be like, fight the power, fight the system. Like, part of it's that for me. It's like I'm willing to give up my own, what my face looks like to be like, fuck you. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, keep going, just keep going. Down, down. But fuck you, There's something in me that's like punk rock. So I also feel like there's like some anger that we need to get into. Like there's some like real big, there's just a lot of victimization,
Yeah,
shadow lurking.
yeah, I feel like there's something here that we can kind of switch to now, like maybe focusing more on the plastic surgery, beauty
Yeah.
enhancements thing. Um, but there's something, I was listening to this podcast a person on Instagram sent me yesterday that's like 30 minutes, and it's one of the housewives of Dubai, which I didn't know that was a thing, but she is all the things to the face, taking it's the other one that starts with the M, not the Ozempic, but
Not
the,
Wegovy, not, yeah,
yeah,
okay, well,
it's like
anyway, a
Mojave
semaglutide.
or,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, she's taking that. She's just like, she's 50 and she's like, yeah, Monjaro, yep. And she's like, I love aging. Aging's amazing. And yeah, I got a
Love it.
facelift and I'm taking the Monjaro and I'm feeling amazing. And there's an element of huge amount of privilege, right? Because she's like, just find the hormone doctor. Just find the hormone doctor. But what I felt listening to this it was it's like a perspective that I don't have like friends like it was a perspective. I was like, wow, this is a different perspective and it's really interesting. And but what I felt in her underneath was like she was like, I have to do these things to stay in the game.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like this feeling and like what you were speaking to, Ryan, of like just keeping up. It's like I don't know if women want to get a facelift more than they're just like, I have work to do. And if I gotta get a facelift for you to take me seriously, like I fucking will. She talks about how getting a facelift is like super badass because it's how painful it is. And I'm like, yeah, and
Oh
the
my
time and
God.
recovery and like I'm like, ugh. And so yeah, the then the question is like, why do you feel
Mm.
as a powerful creator that you have to like fit into this mold that is like basically I'm 50 but I look like I'm 25 or 30 or
The
whatever.
old paradigm. I mean, it's just the patriarchy on steroids with like literally, it's just the patriarchy on injectables. It really is so devoid of the true feminine. Like it just is like,
So let's
and
let's let's
yeah,
parse that apart and unpack that though, because I think
yeah,
that's what people need to understand is like how that is, because that can sound like a judgment. Like it's just
okay,
so not feminine, and it's like, okay, well, why?
Right.
I know we all know this, but like let's
yeah,
Right. Well,
say
I
that.
think the first thing to just point out is that the feminine we talk about is very different than femininity.
Yeah.
So the way I see
mm,
femininity is like
mm,
it's a performance, it's an affectation of how we think we're supposed to be as women, which I think is just garbage. Push that over. And then the feminine is this, as I perceive it, as I experience it, is this like archetypal force that is totally in service to life, and in service to life through the process of life, which includes death. So there's this like full circle recognition that, the wheel of life, like things are born, things grow, things decline, and they die. Um, I mean, that's one aspect of the feminine, but one that I think we are particularly afraid of, like really terrified of, is we're running from death. We're running from the decay, from the descent. And we can see this in so many aspects of life, right? The way that we kind of pathologize things like depression, we pathologize things that are dark and we mysterious and we don't understand them and we just give them um prescribe something for them. And I think that this aspect of the feminine and the crone aspect being related, right? The maiden mother crone and the crone really being stripped of her place of significance in our culture, um, on a psychic level really contributes to this.
yeah. I
Yeah.
think I'm thinking about like when I say it's not feminine too, I'm thinking about um the lack of the collective and like the individualism and the like drive to prove oneself as an individual versus like the taking it in as the collective experience. Because I'm like I'm in deep thought about the judgment around like that's not feminine. I think it's the pace. Like that's one of the things that one of the reasons why I love Marianne's quote so much. It's like the pace, the lack of collective, the lack of the organic nature of the way the cycles are and the way the earth changes, like we live and we die. Um,
The death culture of
just food
perfectionism.
thoughts. Yeah, perfectionism.
Perfectionism is, essentially anti-eros.
Yeah, also it feels angular, linear, like there's something about plastic surgery that feels like stiff and tight and angular to me, like linear, not,
Even
I
just
don't know, it just,
aesthetically, like even aesthetically, like it's just
The
like
Botox, you can't like, like move your
So
face
lack of
gets kind of
expression,
frozen.
like
Yeah.
like a mask, lack of expression. Yeah, like I don't know. I'm just throwing these out because I'm like trying to collect my thoughts in what it is for me. I mean, bless her heart, but like you gotta go under the fucking knife on your face to feel alive. Like shit, man. I don't know. Like that sounds like that just sounds like I mean, this is something I'm really guilty of. Like, I want to drive fast. I want to get high. I want to, like, that's me. That's how I am. I'm like, really, I love feeding the sympathetic. And I'm like, well, that's what it sounds like she needs. She needs to, like, rage around a fire with, like, she needs to be like a warrior, like, out there, like, hunting animals. Like, I don't know, it's like she's that kind of woman. But she's grasping at something that doesn't exist for us. Women are like not allowed to do that stuff. So she's got to find a way.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. And I think the rite of passage as well, right? Like being, if we were in a culture that initiated us into being able to hold more pain, right?
Yeah.
Like
Mm-hmm.
these kind of oh, okay, now I'm a woman, or now I'm initiated into this, and these like tribal initiations where you are confronted with like an incredible amount of pain, or a natural initiation like childbirth, right? Like I know for me, natural childbirth, it was just like, are you fucking kidding that I would like cut my son's testicle or his penis, like
Foreskin. Yeah.
foreskin, like that I would change how incredibly perfect this is. Like it kind of opened up this window for me into a kind of not idealized perfection, but like innate kind of rightness that is like the body. Um, and I think that, yeah, rites of passage help us to hold this tension of pain and know that we're going to come through it. And what I see in a lot of our motivation to have plastic surgery is like, yeah, maybe an unwillingness to be with pain, like the pain of like, yeah, how uncomfortable it is to get old or to look, yeah.
Well, and young children, have you guys read Soulcraft by Bill Plotkin? I mean, he talks about how young men and women go through these very young, like they go on their first vision quests like when they're 12, like in tribal society. Like you're out on your own, starving for 3 days, sleeping in the dark in the woods by yourself. Some of the children don't come back. That was part of the experience. We can't even get close to contemplating that. But could we create rituals like this younger for young people, so that we can get them close to that feeling of you don't get everything, or like there's like yeah, I don't know, that confrontation with yourself.
Yeah.
Wow. This is bringing up for me something I've been thinking about around, there's not to get into a whole different subject, but like there's this idea of a split happening, right? Like there's like the humanity, the life, and then there's like AI and synthetic, right? And I think it's maybe kind of obvious that plastic surgery, or like, you're literally putting like silicone in your body, or injecting, you know, unnatural hyaluronic acid into your face, like these, we're become like that's becoming kind of faker, right? Like more synthetic. And and there's something about humans that we evolved and grew with so much hardship, like, you know, death, and we're having to like cultivate our own food, having to live in relationship with nature. And, you know, as we modernize and we get further and further from nature. And I think that you could trace all of our health concerns to that fact in a lot of ways. And so, you know, as this split happens, I do feel like if we choose the human side, we're like, let's be humans, let's team humanity, right? That like there's gonna be hardships. Like we're gonna have to not go backwards and like start hunting all of our own food and growing all of our own food necessarily, but there's something really human about getting our hands in the dirt, about being confronted with discomfort, about pain, like Blair was saying, you know, like pain and hardship were really woven into our lives, and that's how we evolved. And I don't think that the answer is obviously like more convenience, more ease, less, and in some ways modern life is so much harder, right? And I know that there could be that argument like, well, we're so much more stressed and life is so much harder, but it's hard in like this unnatural way. You know? Yeah. And so there's something about like that, the beauty of like, yeah, the salt of the earth, working with the land, the wrinkles, the wisdom, the scars that come from, you know, difficult things that happen in our lives. And I feel like we're given a story that like we shouldn't have to experience these things. That, you know, material, like just make a lot of money and then have like tons of houses and get your face fixed and get your body redone every few years. And like, it's just, you know, and it's like, we're missing so much of what makes us human then, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the screens have changed. You know, there's like a way that we're seeing each other now too, which I didn't think about this until like 2 days ago when somebody mentioned it in my DMs, and it's like the pixelated versions of ourselves that are showing up on screens that are like not, you don't see blemishes. I mean, you don't, like if I had a big zit on my face right now, you would not even know at all, you know? Also like positions that you can put yourself in to like make yourself look a certain way. We're like, even the more time we spend on the screen looking at humans, the more sort of disoriented we get around what humanness looks like. And that whole Vanity Fair spread that's been like, you know, it's like all the rage or whatever. Jessica DeFino, who writes Flesh World, who I just like think is amazing regarding this topic. So I highly recommend looking her up because she's really well versed and so good at talking about all the things. She was like, this picture spread was actually awesome. This is photojournalism. Like this is like people in the way that they really show up in the world, the way they really look. Like, you know, the lip filler injection spots or whatever aside, like she was really just talking about like, this is what we used to think beautiful art looked like wrinkly skin and mottled skin and whatever, wrinkles, whatever. And now like everybody's like, oh my God, like look at these pictures. That must have been a joke because they don't make them look like so amazing. And it's like, actually, this is a fucking artist doing what artists do. Like taking pictures of humans, how they look. Like, I was like, oh my God, she's so right. You know, because I even got kind of trapped in that dialogue around the politicization of it all. And then I listened to her and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's so interesting because we've been talking about this. I listened to that weird podcast by that housewives lady, and then I watched a couple episodes of The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. Oh my God.
Okay. Are they getting plastic surgery too?
Oh, yes. They're like these beautiful 25-year-olds that are like, I got my body redone. And it's like everyone, like their moms are all getting, it's like, it's wild. They all have fake hair. They all have, you know, anyway. And I found myself, even with all of my conscious knowledge, I was like looking at myself in the mirror, or I caught myself in the mirror or something, and I just remember being like feeling like because
Yeah.
like these women are like perfect, like they're perfect.
I mean, I personally feel like the Mormon gene pool is pretty fucking amazing. Every Mormon I know is like a gorgeous human. I'm like, what happened
I
there?
think a lot of them get plastics. I mean, my
Well,
sister
okay, I know
Salt
the
Lake,
natural
so
looking ones, but
okay.
like it's been
Anyway,
kind of
but
shocking. Anyway, sidebar.
yeah, but
They
like,
have a
so
leg
just
up.
me watching like 2-3 hours of this, I noticed a change in how I saw myself. That's crazy. And
Yeah.
imagine our daughters and young, malleable minds. And I mean, I know that this is not a new idea. We've all heard this, we've all felt the grief of this, but like, it's so true. This social nervous system, right? I mean, I'll let Blair speak to that, but it's like, it's like, oh, I'm unsafe because I look so different than them.
And 20 years ago, we had Cosmo, and
Yeah.
you know, we would flip through it and see all these airbrushed, really skinny models and be like, oh my God, that's what I should look like. But now it's like our phones have captured our minds so completely, and it's pretty terrifying. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because we're seeing way more images of ourselves. Like how many images a day do you see of yourself versus what you used to see in the 80s or 90s? Like so much more.
Yeah.
We used to just have mirrors and photographs. Now we
And this gap between like being the subject of our own lives versus being an object, like looking in on ourselves, is that's growing. I mean,
yeah.
undoubtedly. And yeah, Clara, the social nervous system part is really interesting because I just know that um, when I yeah, like our nervous systems are wired to fit in and to be
Yeah.
like others. And so when you go and you hang out with a bunch of people and they all have purple hair or they all have, they're all dressed in a certain way or they all have Botox, like you see it, and especially the facial stuff, like the stuff with the musculature and the parts of our bodies, it's like you see it, and a part of you, even if it's not a cognitive, like a cognition, like you're recognizing it with your mind, some part of you knows that it's off in some way, right? Like I remember in high school, my best friend's mom had fake boobs. And nobody really had fake boobs in this small little town. And we were all just like, oh my God, are they? Aren't they? Like it was such this huge, like so like how is she so perfect? And she was like, yeah, this pedestalized figure. And then when you do that, you feel this innate sense of difference. Like you're so acutely aware of how you are not like that. And then I think too easily the mind goes to, well, like then I need to do that to fit in. So your
Mhm.
body's actually like recognizing, hey, something is not quite right here because that could potentially, you know, um, help you to survive in the way that the nervous system is looking for threat. And then you kind of internalize it as something is wrong with me. And
Yeah, that's such a
that
key
becomes so
piece.
sad.
Like right there, it's like lasering in on who says I need to be like that to be safe, and who is like, whoa, that's weird. I'm gonna become an anarchist. Like who, where does
And maybe you're
where
both.
does the split happen
Yeah.
and why? That's what I want to know. Like I'm like, what? Because I'm always like wanting to get down, 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 like percolate it down to that one moment where, and I know it's like a bunch of little moments, but I also think there's like a major theme right there of like, what makes you go that far?
Mhm.
Um, because plastic surgery is a big deal, but I think it might be like drugs, like you smoke weed and then you keep going. Like you get a little Botox, you get a little filler, you
They
start
they
like
talked
numbing
about
yourself out.
this on the Mormon
Oh,
Life
they
show.
do.
They were like the mom was just gonna go get a nose job, and then they're like, and then she just got her whole face done because she was, and like she looks like completely different like
Wow.
afterwards.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
interesting because her daughter is like, whoa, like they have a time when like she first sees her, and you can, I mean, I felt the grief in the moment. Like I was like,
That's
her
sad.
mom's gone, and she's like, oh, she's happy, but like it was kind of weird,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah,
Well, and what prevent like I think maybe I'm scared to get the Botox, like I'm scared to go the little pieces route because I know that if I get too much, I'm gonna like like I said, I'm like that sympathetic person, so
yeah.
I'm just gonna like, nope, can't have any of that. Like I know for sure. So I wonder if it's a little bit of that too. Like I'm a little bit scared to go there.
Even dabble. Well,
Yeah, to even dabble.
I
Yeah.
think that's
And I
fair.
think what's important for all of us also is that, I mean, we're trying to look at the motivations underneath these things and assert people's free will. Like people are
Yeah.
able to do whatever the fuck they want to do. And I just think that there's so much that people are either willingly or maybe even unconsciously just not recognizing about what these things really are.
Yeah.
So is that really free will? You know?
I don't know. And I also want to invite conversation into this space because I'm like starting to get weirded out that I'll see a friend I haven't seen in a year and they're like 40 pounds lighter than me or lighter than they were. And then I'm like, something happened, but we don't even talk about it. And so then it inserts all of this like weird, I think I'm just like I'm a little bit I have feelings around that just the secrets make me uncomfortable. Maybe that's like an old adolescent thing.
So that is that
Um
something you've experienced, Ryan? Is like people
yeah,
just
oh
really
yeah, like major weight loss where you're just like, "Oh, I actually yeah. I mean, I had a friend who lost a lot of weight, and then my other friend who doesn't have like any filter and is really hilarious and somehow gets away with saying the most ridiculous stuff. Just looked at her. It was around Halloween, and she was like dressed up like Jane Fonda or whatever. She's like, "What are you, Ozempic for Halloween?" And I was like, "Oh my God!" I was like, "She just said that." And I could have never said that because I think it would have come from a judgy place from my mouth, but this person like didn't care that my friend had lost 40 pounds. And and then so I was like that moment was so weird for me because I was trying to be like, "Oh, okay, this is interesting."
Mhm.
Um but yeah, I find the secretiveness of it that it creates an othering or a it creates
Separation.
breaks in the circle of like trust. But maybe it doesn't, and that's something I have to work on. I don't know.
Well, I think that's part of this this nervous system aspect
Yeah,
is like when
totally.
you feel that something is off, like your body is responding in a primal way. Um, and I don't think you can control your response. And in my opinion, also like just a lack of openness of something makes me curious as well. Like, why wouldn't you be open about it?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I'm
So
curious if anybody here has like, has been like sitting on big thoughts or
Yeah.
ideas or things they
or
want to share.
experience.
Yeah, let's open it up to discussion. I think we brought in a lot of stuff. So, yeah, if anyone has anything.
Thanks for hanging tough with us, Caroline, on the video.
Yeah.
I feel like you're here. Hi, Maddie. Hi, Shannon. We know you're listening, but if you want to type something into the chat too, that's great. Just interested in hearing from
Carolyn's
people.
got something to say.
Okay, yeah, girl,
Yeah,
go.
you do.
I've always got something to say.
I know. Good to see you.
So good to see you, man. So good. Yeah, this is it's a really interesting and really opportune thing, because like I don't mind sharing. Like you know, I've put like a lot of my story, and I've gained a lot of weight over the last years, and it's like I've always been a yes to it, because I've known it is like, you know, I've had childhood sexual trauma, I've had eating disorders, I've had serious like insomnia for years and years and years, and it was like I was always so like locked in and committed to doing this really slowly and at my own capacity. And there was something you just dropped in about the truth of the capacity, the required capacity to do this in the human way and it's just, it like unlocked something, and it just like gave me like this deep like sigh of relief in there. Because I've been looking at Ozempic, and I'll be honest, in the UK it's a hell of a lot cheaper. It's like not Monjaro, which is the combined one, like for it's £200, £150 to £200 a month. It's like it's nothing compared to the States. And you know, I wasn't going into anything blindly. I was like, look, I wouldn't ever want to do it from the place of suppressing hunger. And that was one of the inquiries I had coming in today, was like, well, what about it from the treatment, from the, you know, the microdosing and the peptide treatment, and like doing it in a way that it absolutely is not starvation. And something had hooked me in all that. And I could feel it, because I wasn't a yes to it, but I've been like, oh, I'll look at that in the new year. I'll book that in the new year, and I'll do this. And what really landed was that it's like the skipping of the transformation and the gift of the transformation of when you actually really do trust your body, even how like, and I so appreciate, it's so funny when you just have other women speaking the language that you use, because this is the language I use around sexuality and what I teach, and that fitting in, and the I'm literally at the moment teaching on how like those slutty behaviors are actually that nervous system protection mechanisms that come in, and seeing it framed, the same stuff framed when it comes to food, of like that meeting the need of the like nourishment. And it actually, like, I could feel my heart just open in that moment of like how many of us are still starved of that mother connection, that relationship to nourishment. And like it's just another band-aid. It's getting wrapped up in, and the bit that's still like I have questions on, because I know there's a lot of like teachers and people that I really trust on the feminine path that aren't just doing because I listened to that book, what's it called, The Magic Pill.
Yeah.
And I was like, that there's that aspect of it, of the people that are the extreme unhealthy, eating fast food their entire life, and they're just starving themselves. And then you've got this other like aspect of like the biohacking and the crunchy people who are using this like technology, and it's like it's being, and something you said in the in your marketing of this, Clara, was it's still unnatural. Like it's not even though it's a peptide. And something like really clicked with me, that because like I was on birth control from when I was 14, you know. You tick all the boxes of all the things to give you some hormones and weight issues later on in life. And I'm like, it's like, oh, it's so obvious to me when I look at synthetic hormones, and I'm just like, oh, fuck no, they like, I have had that personal experience of how much they have fucked with my body along with everything else. But the peptide stuff is being classed as bioidentical.
Yeah.
And it's like, from what I'm now realizing, it's not. So
Nope.
yeah, I
And
mean,
just
I'm
like
just
birth control, if you're not taking it, it's not doing its job. So there's that aspect too. It's like if you stop taking the injections, the signals are not there anymore, which is what
mm,
they're meant to do, right? They're meant to give you
mm,
like
And
satiety
there,
symbol or
yeah. And I totally know what you mean, Carolyn, because about 2 years ago, when these peptides started to become like more mainstream, there was a big like slew of wellness people that even some that I trust and maybe still kind of trust and follow and stuff. They were like talking about these peptides, and they frame them as if, yeah, they're like this natural thing. Oh, your body's making it, and so it's the same. It's, oh, you're just kind of like giving yourself a boost, and it is this biohacking, um,
sorry.
this biohacking attitude. It's like, I'm gonna be smarter than my body.
mm,
uh, and so like 2 years ago when this happened, I've been struggling with my weight and like this kind of weight loss resistance. I was like, I went and talked to my friend who's an osteopath doctor, and I was like, I think I'm going to try these new peptides. Like, what are they? And I got a prescription, I had them, and I just kept feeling no in my body. And I could have so easily overridden that because I had all this information that was like, it's fine, it's safe. And I could feel what it really was that I could feel this grabby part in the back that was like, I just want to, that sounds so easy. Like it sounds, it's the magic pill, it's the silver bullet obsession that we all have, that I completely like. This is not me saying that I am better. This is me saying I know it, and I have been there, and I have been like literally centimeters away from injecting myself with that.
mm.
So I'm not kidding when I'm like, I get it. But for me, it was like, because of my work, I was like, this is one of those moments, Clara, that you like walk the walk, And I think if I would have done it, I wouldn't have been secret about it at all. I would have been like, oh, I did this thing. But it was just this niggle, this little subtle thing that was like, no, like it's a bypass. And there's still so much here for you to learn. And this is where I'm also saying, like, I am not everyone. I am not you. You are not me. Like, this is my path. This is my journey with my body. And that's what was true for me. And this isn't saying that every single person out there taking these things is overriding some subtle niggle of their body. I don't believe that. But I do think that if you are, in a path of embodiment, feminine embodiment, like there would be a journey in that too.
Yeah.
But like for me, I was like, oh, there's a shadow here that's like, give me the quick fix. And I was like, I have to pause, and I have to go slower than that. And immediately after I did, it was like, of course, like it all made sense. So, and now we have so much, and now we do have more information about the negative side effects and things like that too, which I think would have been easier for me to not do it back then. So yeah.
I am feeling like the free birth thing coming up here, because there was this like extremism or there is this extremism in the Free Birth Society, and that whole article was about like how there was negligence in the like dug-inness.
Yeah.
About like, I will not call a doctor even if I need it, and I will not, and that ended up in the stillborn babies, right? A lot of them, that's like the whole crux of their issue. So yeah, just to like, I think I can speak for all three of us here, like we're not so dug in that we want people to feel like harm themselves or feel like there's harm, because there are, and this goes to statistics, but there are major problems with having long-term diabetes, for sure. There are major, there is heart disease. There are other things to consider in terms of your quality of life and your longevity. And so from that perspective, I think that's like the one like really rooted perspective we can get on the oppositional side of working with these peptides is that, you know, it is striking a balance, and we do want people to be healthy and live long wonderful lives, you know. So there are some people that have, like, things have gotten far, they've gone far on the other side, and
Yeah.
it's hard to bring them back, you
Yeah.
know, like especially for elderly, like my mom. I think about my mom, she never was on bioidentical hormones, so like the second she forgot her, or her estrogen left, her body just totally changed. And then she got high blood pressure, and then she got, you know, like she got the things that sometimes come with menopause. If you're not, if your body isn't in really great nutritional health or alignment, the second the estrogen goes, like a lot of things start showing up. And I'm sort of like, God, I don't know, you know, maybe Ozempic would make her have a longer life, and maybe it would decrease her blood pressure, and maybe it would, she wouldn't have to take that medication, but she'd, you know, she'd be swapping basically blood medication for the GLP-1s, but get the benefit of losing weight, which might make her exercise more, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know. But
Yeah.
anyway, just things I think about in terms of the other side of the argument.
Yeah.
Um, hey,
Yeah.
Shannon, do you want to talk to us? I
I'd love
see.
to.
Okay, awesome.
Hi, y'all.
Hi.
Um, Thank you so much for this discussion. I listened to the replay of the Free Birth Society one, and I loved it. The circle is just really wonderful. Um, so, oh my gosh, I feel like this brings me back to like my roots and my heritage. I'm Chicana Mexican on my mom's side. And it's just kind of like a thing that we're taught, you know, that like Mexican women don't leave the house without being done up, you know, and that there is a huge image thing. And so I'm kind of like measuring it against and like alongside with like my upbringing with like my European white father and his wife in Montana versus, you know, my mom's perspective. And yeah, my mom has always been based out of Southern California, and we know that like that's kind of like the birthplace of so much of this, like um, the glamour and the injections and the faces and all the things. And now she's living in Miami, and so I'm just like,
Number two
it's
in line.
yeah, 100%, 100%. And so it's always just a trip for me because like she had liposuction right before her second wedding. And moving to Miami, she's like back in the dental field, but now she has been getting into like the cryotherapy, like the freezing kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I'm not really sure like what that's all about, but last time I saw her, you know, her forehead was pretty immobile. And like, you know, her like beautiful fine lines are like still kind of showing and stuff, but there's always commentary, you know, and there's always commentary on me, you know, like pinching the back of the arms and like posture and all kinds of stuff. And yeah, that's just like a constant nag or a constant pressure, you know, in appearance. Um, and I think that my dabbling too in like self-starvation came from a completely different source. But I think it was just like really fascinating to hear everyone speak about, you know, like what happens like hormonally and spiritually, and also the high. And I remember one of my like probably the worst of the two that I was like full on just like really depriving myself of like food and nutrition. I was in Mexico, I was in San Pancho, and I was laid out for like 6 days on like a deficiency fever. But prior to all of that, I was like super active, surfing, doing massage, teaching Pilates, doing the thing, and I just felt high all the time and like spun out on what I was like avoiding emotionally. And so yeah, it's really wild, just like all the factors, you know, that like lead into um how we treat our bodies and our spirit and like, you know, walk the path and veer off the path as women. So yeah, I'm like, I need help from all of you. Like I'm eating good now. And I'm just like, man, like I could really use, you know, like some supplementary understanding of what happened during those points of starvation too, like as to like where my body is now. And yeah, I appreciate this conversation. There's a lot of temptation, you know, like the craziness of MAGA face and the like overt uh like influence of the Kardashians in our everyday lives is maddening to me. And I'm like, oh man, let's just get back to the basics. So
Amen.
yeah, kind of a little bit of a dump there, but I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so much going on while I'm listening to this.
Hmm. Thanks, Shannon,
Mhm.
for
Yeah,
sharing that.
thank
We
you.
feel you.
Yeah. I
Hmm.
mean, yeah, that's what we're doing here too, is like it is just kind of like, okay, like this is how I feel. This is what's coming up for me. Like these are all the things I'm thinking about. And hopefully, it just we leave you with something to think about, like something to chew on, something that feels whatever, like Carolyn said, like whatever's been unlocked. Like that's the power of this depth kind of inquiry. It's like, whoa, there's stuff underneath here that I haven't even touched into or I haven't even considered. And yeah, I think that that's just, it's so important to just kind of like let that arise and like let it, let it, let it do what it will, and open what it will. So yeah, thank you for sharing. And yeah, and also relatable too. I mean, there's so much pressure, there's so much temptation, like you said, mm, yeah,
Yeah, and the motherline stuff too
yeah.
really touched me because it's like, yeah, I think a lot of us are having to remother ourselves in ways that, like, definitely our mothers didn't receive, probably our grandmothers, probably our great grandmothers, and um, yeah, there's grief there. But I also um, I think of Marion Woodman really reinforcing this idea that we're all orphans, and that when we really wake up to that is like when we really start to grow, like learning how to do it for ourselves. It's a big
And
theme.
having that mature feminine presence in our lives somewhere. Maybe that's another person, a practitioner, maybe it's ourselves. I mean, I think so much of my journey with my body has been kind of self-led. Like I've had some key players, but I, it's been a self-mothering, a remothering process that I learned through, in a lot of ways, mothering my kids. And then being like, oh, that's how you mother. Okay, I can do that to me now.
Yeah. Maddie and the Bubbas are here. Hi.
Hi. Hey everyone. Um, yeah, thanks so much for this conversation. I think I like felt pulled to listen because I'm also breastfeeding, so you're gonna hear some noises. Um, because I just don't hear a lot of like voices that reiterate the feelings that I have behind this in my life. I just moved back home to New Hampshire to have a baby when I was in like a community of more like-minded folks in Colorado. And now I'm here and there's like people from high school and whatever, and it's just like really interesting to notice how our values have shifted over time. But I feel like um for me, what I really love, I don't know who said it. I think it was you, Clara, about, or maybe it was Blair, I don't know, but about how like the feminine archetype is in service to life, even when that's in death too. And I feel like for me, like the death anxiety, everything that comes up, like a lot of the using filler, whatever, trying to be younger is rooted in that. That's like how I tend to like think about things is like, okay, we're all afraid of aging and becoming, like not as important in society. Um, it's not even like actually death maybe, but it's like becoming less relevant, afraid of like not being the maiden anymore. And because we don't value those other things and we don't value mothers, we don't value the crone, like they just yeah, aren't like as beautiful and shiny. You all know this, I don't need to say it, but I feel like the the death piece is really important for me, and I feel like a lot of the like anarchist like fuck the systemness for me comes from that too, of like I also am having an experience of remothering right now because I just had a baby. He's 7 weeks old. I'm living with my mom, and like hearing about all the ways that she mothered me when I was a baby. I mean, it's just like so in this cycle right now, but she also like is always doing this to her face and trying to like make her wrinkles go away, and the comments that she has about her own body, and she's like, "Oh, I used to be this size and now I'm this size." And I yeah, just I think there's like this piece of me that wants to be anarchist about it, but then that part like gets tired. And then I feel like just sad about like the state of culture and my friends and like the ways that people think about things. Like I use that like fire to keep me going, and like, okay, I'm like anti-system, so this has energy behind it. And then like it's like, oh, I like really don't match the beauty standard when I go and visit certain friends or whatever the things that they're really into. We just like but the gap gets wider and wider and wider every single time. And yeah, it just feels sad. And so I think it's cool to listen to you guys talk, and it doesn't feel like you guys are coming from a very angry place, which is cool for me to witness and see. And it's more of just like a rooted, grounded place. Um, and yeah, I'm learning that too. I don't think I have anything else to say there, but
Oh, you're in such a beautiful moment right now. I know it's hard to tell sometimes when when you just had a baby, but the magic of your evolution is that you're in right now is it's just you can tell by the way that you're talking about this that you're just like I've been there. I've been there, and I love hearing you talk about it because you're so awake and you're so conscious. You're just like conscious mother being an example right now. So
mm,
reflecting that back to you.
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. And I just to speak to the rage and like or like anger or like fuck you energy versus grief, which
Mhm.
is like I in my experience when I have a lot of that like fuck you energy, a lot of times it is like a shell and
Mm-hmm.
underneath it is grief. And that's actually part of becoming okay with the cycle because I think so many of us assume like if we feel the grief, we're going to get like taken away and we're going to be in grief forever. And
Mhm.
this is part of this tension of opposites too. It's like no, we feel the grief. We go to the bottom. Blair said to me the other day, like the velvety bottom, like we go there and we feel it and like and then we come back up. Like it won't be forever.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
That's our next class. We're gonna do an interpretive dance of how we hang out in the velvety bottom.
yeah.
I love but
Oh.
it does feel like that though, because it's like there's something so delicious about being
Mhm.
like the true feeling and expression of it, right? Not like a story about it, but just like the truth of where you are in
Mhm.
that spot. Yeah.
And we need to feel the grief. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anything else really to do in this day and age other than like fucking feel the massive amount of grief, of disconnection from our bodies, from the earth, from life. And that is, in a way, a tension in itself. And that is the place where something new can grow from. It's the soil, and so perfect too, because it's almost the solstice. And, we're in this dark, primordial womb time of the year. And it's the winter. And yeah, so many of us have been unwilling to feel the grief. And that's what drives the beauty enhancements, I think, is like I don't want to feel the grief of getting old. I don't want to feel the grief of the pain of, not fitting in or things changing. And so let me go like get myself up here again, So yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and our teacher Sil Reed, we talk about the crone being despair, like versus compassion. So like if you come to the crone from a place of conscious motherhood versus unconscious, like if you come to the crone as a conscious, then you're the ultimate feeling of that archetype is compassion. But if you come to the crone from this unconscious motherhood place, then what you feel with aging is despair because you haven't moved through that rite of passage of like what it is to become a mother and these like grounded realizations of like sovereignty and like what's yours. If you don't really work that, then when you become a crone, you are sad and you do things based on that.
Mm.
I feel
Anyway,
like, yeah, I feel like this is a really good moment to maybe end. Is there anything else that anybody wants to speak to or something percolating? Mm. I think that our intention with this, like you said, Claire, at the beginning, is to really like serve this thread of life and life force. Um, and my hope is that we conveyed a bit of the complexity and nuance and like just how kind of garbled together everything is, and we were just able to spread apart a few pieces for you to chew on and go away with, and really um, digest. Yeah, yeah, it's really really nice to be here with everybody today. Loved it.
me
Yeah.
too. Thanks everyone and stay tuned. We hope there will be more things for us to talk about and maybe we'll even consider parsing out some of these topics and talking about more in detail. So thanks, Shannon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys.
Ciao.
Yeah.
Okay,
Have a great
bye.
weekend. Happy solstice.
Happy
Thank you
solstice.
all. Happy solstice.